6 in the morning, 9,000 feet up in the Colorado Rockies, and there she was. Victoria Kensington, standing on my porch, breath fogging and the cold mascara running down her cheeks like she'd just lost a war. Behind her, the Gore Range caught fire in the sunrise, painting the sky with gold and rose while those ancient peaks looked on. Unimpressed, unmoved, like they'd seen empires come and go, and knew this one would fall too. She was shouting before I even set my coffee down. "You did this. You shut off our water." Her finger jabbed my chest, trembling with rage and altitude. "My husband's on the phone with the governor. You'll be in prison by noon." I let her words hang in the air, took a long, slow sip. My dad, sitting behind me in his wheelchair, stared out at the same lake she'd kicked him off barely a day before. For the first time in months, his eyes were sharp. He looked like the man who'd raised me, not the ghost I'd come home to. I kept my voice steady, the way 20 years in federal service had taught me. "Mrs. Kensington, I didn't shut off anything. I closed a valve on my own land. That valve's been illegally feeding your neighborhood for 15 years. In Colorado, water rights are law, not suggestion." I let that fact settle, watching her face cycle through colors most folks only see on warning labels: pink, red, purple, then gray. She looked wrecked, standing there in her wrinkled blue suit, the armor she wore to every confrontation. Except today it was coffee-stained and crooked. I figured she'd thrown it on in the dark. Probably while her phone exploded with calls from 340 families discovering their faucets bone dry. Then the cavalry arrived, 2 sheriff cruisers, a black SUV with federal plates. When she read U.S. Army Corps of Engineers on the side, I saw the exact moment when her bravado turned to panic. "You know what water rights are worth here, Mrs. Kensington?" I asked, finishing my coffee. "More than those houses, more than your husband's company. It's more than every favor your brother-in-law, the commissioner, ever called in." She opened her mouth and nothing came out. Funny thing, just 3 weeks before, I was nobody. It's just a worn-out son driving 12 hours to care for a dying father in an old cabin above the clouds. I had no idea I was about to break the most powerful woman in Summit County. The lake had always felt like a secret, the kind the mountains kept for themselves. 800 acres, alpine meadows spilling down to granite water, so clear you could spot trout shadows 40 feet deep. Sullivan Lake, named for my great-grandfather, who'd staked this claim before Colorado had its own name on a map. The drive-up dad barely spoke. He just kept his hands tight on the wheelchair armrests, staring through the glass. "Still here," he finally whispered first words in 2 days. Harper, my 16-year-old daughter, didn't bother to look up from her phone, even though the signal had vanished 40 minutes ago. "We're staying here," she asked, eyeing the log cabin. "No cell service." Dad's voice surprises both steady. "Sure, there's something better. Quiet." He won this land in '71, a lottery for Vietnam vets, last of its kind. 800 acres, no developer could ever pry loose, though they'd tried for half a century. The water rights alone, turns out, were worth more than most folks earn in a lifetime. I'd been gone 22 years, building water systems for the Army, learning that water's never just water. It's power, politics, survival, all wrapped up in the same pipe. He never asked me to come back, not even after the stroke. My sister called, said he'd stopped eating, just stared out the window like he was waiting for something. That first day back, I helped him out of the truck. The wheelchair sunk into the mountain soil, but he didn't complain, never did. 30 minutes later, a golf cart came wheezing up the old mining road. Absurd sight up here. Silver-haired woman at the wheel, blue suit, crisp clipboard, ready. She strolled up like she owned the ridge. Victoria Kensington, Crestview Peak Estates, HOA. She looked us over muddy truck dad's chair, Harper's boots caked in dust. I could feel her tallying up every flaw. She rattled off the rules: vehicle access, homesthetics, lake protocols, claimed exclusive rights to our eastern shore. Dad's jaw tightened, his skin weathered by decades out here. "No," he said, Just like that, and for a second her smile slipped. "Perhaps his memory isn't what it used to be," she cooed. "I have documentation." That's when the part of me that had survived 20 years of bureaucracy took over. "I know what a water agreement looks like, Mrs. Kensington. I know a fake when I see one." She turned, muttering about attorneys. Her smile meant war. Day 3 sunrise. I rolled Dad down to the lake for his old morning ritual. The light hit the peaks, then spilled down into the valley, turning the water gold. "Your mother and I watched this same sunrise on our wedding morning," he whispered. That dock he'd carried every board up by hand back in '74, before there was even a road. Then the HOA brigade appeared, 3 golf carts in formation. "This area is Crestview Peak residents only." Victoria called like a judge. Dad didn't flinch. "I built this dock in 1974, carried my wife across it on our wedding day, 23 years before your community existed. You're not taking it from me." She said, if we wanted access, there'd be a 60-day wait, a background check. Dad squeezed my hand. He knew something she didn't. I called the county office that night. The clerk whispered, "The Kensingtons have influence. Any water rights go through Judge Edward Kensington, her father-in-law." Dad watched me. "They've been doing this for years, pushing boundaries, filing lawsuits, waiting for me to break. I thought I could outlast them." I was wrong. His hand trembled. He told me the stroke wasn't random. These people have been trying to kill me slowly for years. Day 6, we got the letter, $18,000 fine for unauthorized structure maintenance. A threat to demolish the cabin my great-grandfather built in 1889. The law firm's address matched the company supposedly running the water system. 20 years of federal work had taught me there's no such thing as coincidence. I dug through filings. Everything pointed to the Kensington's development, maintenance law, government, all controlled by family. Anyone who resisted got crushed. Day 9, Harper called me home. Dad's wheelchair stuck in mud, him soaking wet, shivering. Harper crying, phone recording. That woman in the blue suit pushed him, said he was trespassing. Dad met my eyes. Humiliation was worse than anger. I hauled him up, wrapped him in blankets. For an hour, we just listened to the fire. That night, I unlocked Dad's old cabinet, found 46 years of surveys, letters, water rights documents, and one thing that changed everything: a federal certificate from 1978, priority date 1889, granting us perpetual rights to every drop of water from our spring. I called the old-timers, every single family squeezed out by the Kensingtons. Clara Bennett, Arthur Mitchell, they'd lost everything, but Dad held on. Now I understood why the Kensingtons never stopped. Rachel Hayes, Army Corps. Gregory Vance, forensic accountant. Between them, we built the whole case. Embezzlement shell companies, $3.3 million gone. Infrastructure falling apart. Harper found the valves stamped with Army Corps codes from '78. We had legal right to control it. I cut the flow to 30%. By sunrise, every tap in Crestview Peak was dry. Then the sheriffs arrived. Victoria waiting in her golf cart, smug. She'd filed a complaint, claimed we were neglecting Dad. I walked right up to her, told her to withdraw or face the consequences. She laughed. "You're nobody." I told her where their water came from, how I could control it. That morning, she was back. Mascara, streaking, panicking. "You're destroying this community." I held my coffee steady as ever. This is Colorado water law. First in time, first in right. The Army Corps, EPA, everyone showed up. By 7:30, the meadow below was a scene straight out of a disaster film. Residents in robes and hiking boots. Some angry, some scared. I projected our documents on the side of a truck. Federal certificates, surveys, financials. Harper held up her phone. "Want to see your HOA president push a 74-year-old vet?" The crowd turned. Victoria's power crumbled. Federal teams found that all illegal wells contamination, stolen money. By afternoon, the board resigned. The commissioner was notified. The judge recused. I reopened the valve. The water flowed again, but now everyone knew whose water it really was. Clara Bennett came up to Dad, took his hand. "You held on all this after everything." Dad's eyes glistened. The mountains don't forget. They just wait. The indictments followed water theft, wire fraud, public corruption. Kensington Construction was liquidated assets used to repay families pushed out over 40 years. Judge Edward Kensington retired quietly. Victoria's famous blue suit showed up one last time in her mugshot. 6 months later, the lake was unchanged. The cabin renovated dead, walking short distances with a cane. Harper filmed a documentary on water rights. Richard Lawson, the new HOA president, told me, "You could have destroyed Crestview Peak, charged whatever you wanted." I shook my head. That's not the point. Some fights aren't about winning. They're about proving truth. Still matters, even where money usually wins. Now, every morning, the lake reflects it all. Sunrise. Sunset faces that finally understand what was lost and who took it. Water finds its level, Dad always said. Corruption does, too. You can try to dam it, but sooner or later it breaks through. Dad turns 80 this spring, still wheels himself to the dock. Still watches the sun rise over water, protected by documents older than the state itself. The Kensingtons are out. The Commission are lost by a landslide. And in Crestview Peak Estates, 340 families turn on their taps and get clean water from a spring protected by a Vietnam vet who refused to let the mountains forget. People ask what happens when one person stands up against a rigged system in a place where money's supposed to win every time. Here's what I learned. Eventually, the system runs dry. So where's the line between standing your ground and just surviving? When does fighting back become the only option you've got? Drop your thoughts below, and if you've ever stared down an HOA or seen justice win out the hard way, share your story. The mountains are still listening.